right, so this is the Straw Hat Social Club. This is a podcast done by me. My name is Todd Smith, joined by my wife, Becca Smith.
We're doing legal names?
I don't know.
Oh, God.
I don't know what else to say. But basically, this is our first podcast. We've never done anything like this before. Don't really know what we're doing, but we really wanted to do something creative together, and it seemed like a good idea, I guess. Basically, we're going to be watching all of One Piece together. I'm coming into it as someone who's read all the manga. I'm pretty well versed in the story, keeping up on it. But my wife, Becca, is completely unfamiliar with One Piece, doesn't know anything about it. Kind of, in a way, kind of forcing her to watch it, kind of guiding her through the series, seeing how she feels about it. I think it should be fun.
I think it should be fun, too.
Yeah, but the idea is for the episodes, we're going to break it up by arc. So we're going to start with Romance Dawn. We're going to go through the beats of the story and just provide commentary with me kind of guiding you through it and seeing how you feel, what kind of thoughts you have as someone who's very fresh. Not a huge anime fan.
That's not true.
Well, I remember
it's not that I'm not a huge...
Hold on. All right. I remember when we first started dating.
Oh, me too. Let's get into this.
You were kind of an anime hater.
You were an anime hater.
I was.
I remember we approached it as if we were kids in middle school saying, well, do you watch anime? I don't watch anime. Do you watch anime?
Yeah.
And then I remember you came home from work one day and I was watching Full Metal Alchemist and you were shocked.
Sure.
You were like, you watch anime? Sure.
We'll get into that because that was something I wanted to cover is kind of our history, with anime and how we got here. I don't know. Do you want to start or do you want me to start with that?
I want you to start and then I'll get into whatever my experience is with
Absolutely.
Anime.
So I could say for me, I think I followed the path of a pretty traditional weeb of, I didn't know anything about it until I was in like middle school and I got introduced because of my friend Jason's older brother, Chad, who was someone we all looked up to. He was like cool as hell, even though he was kind of mean to us because we were like, the little kids, he wouldn't leave them alone. And once I was introduced to anime, it was this whole other world that was insane. Because at that age, it's cartoons, but they're very adult themed. And I'd never seen anything like it. So, back then I was watching like Ranma and Half and Urusei Yatsura. And I don't even know like what the first ones were, but it really was like anything out of Japan. It was all cool as hell. Like I just wanted to watch everything. And I was waking up at like 5 a.m. watching Sailor Moon. It was like whatever I could get my hands on. And that went on for a long time. I was buying VHS tapes. I discovered Evangelion on my own, which I was very proud of. Definitely have that kind of indie mentality of like, yeah, I liked it for it was cool. Like for sure. Buying my VHS tapes, they were $30 for 2 episodes. Kids these days don't realize how awesome it is. You could just get Netflix and watch the whole fucking thing, But there was definitely a point where, like, I guess after high school, I don't know what happened. I kind of grew out of it and totally flipped and thought like it was just lame as shit. And I stopped watching it for a long time. And part of when I got back into it was because of you showing me Full Metal Alchemist.
Really? I didn't know that.
Well, I think One Punch Man was the one that really, because One Punch Man's very like self-aware and kind of makes fun of the genre and everything.
Yeah.
So I got into that because it felt like it was making fun of things that I remembered from when I was a big anime fan. And then you showed me Full Metal Alchemist, which I knew about, but I was like, this just looks stupid as hell. And it was fucking great. It was funny. It was really emotional. The action was great. And I don't know, that kind of got me to start watching anime again. Like, what was your experience with all that?
Well, I remember watching Sailor Moon when I was a kid, but I didn't really consider that anime because, now of course I do, but then I was just watching a cartoon with my friends.
Yeah.
But when I got into middle school, I had 2 best friends that were really into anime and I didn't know much about it. And my one friend, all she drew was anime.
Yeah,
and
me too.
our art teachers used to get on us about,
Oh,
yeah, they said it's
Okay.
not real art.
Yeah.
And that was discouraging, but I had one art teacher that loved anime and she introduced me to Spirited Away. And I think I was in 7th grade. I remember watching it and just, I can't explain the feeling. Like, it was like nothing I had ever watched before. And I was like, I want to make that. And she actually let us stay after school and practice cell animation. And we made our own anime club. So I was
cool.
in anime club.
Oh, you're a big dork.
Yeah.
Okay.
And guess what? I was also in chess club. But
Oh,
we don't need to
okay.
get into that.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Middle school was a weird time.
Well, I feel like the Miyazaki stuff kind of transcends, you know, and I also think that Sailor Moon is definitely like a gateway anime for a lot of people, but it's because it's one of the only ones that was really shown on TV in America, you know.
Right. Yeah. But what really pushed me out of anime, like you said, you go through this phase where you're like, well, anime is not cool, is my art teachers in middle school were pushing me to go to art high school.
I think that's the art student experience, unfortunately.
Yeah. And even though we had done all of this work learning anime like techniques and everything, I was told, well, you can't do this professionally.
Right.
So I felt like, what is the point? What is the point of getting into this if everyone hates it? People would make fun of me in middle school, and that didn't feel very good. And so I stopped. I stopped watching it. I would watch it in secret. I wouldn't tell any of my friends. And my true love for anime, even though I love Spirited Away, Full Metal Alchemist is like what really grabbed a hold of me. And I would watch that over my friend's house, and we wouldn't tell anyone, and we would just draw anime all the time.
Oh shit!
And I had this like weird, huge crush on Edward Elric.
Oh boy!
I thought he was so cute, but he's a cartoon character.
Is that the main character?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know if I said that right. So. Yeah.
See, I think overall we kind of encapsulate the love-hate relationship that most anime fans, I think, have with, you know, the whole thing. I feel like everybody goes through their ups and downs, and I think even the biggest anime fans will say like how much they hate anime because it is very broad and there's a lot of weird shit, you know.
Well, I don't think I realized how niche anime could get until we really started getting into more, like when we got Crunchyroll.
Oh, yeah.
And I started looking at like slice of life anime, which I really love.
Sure.
And yeah, I don't know what to say after that.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, I mean, you fucking kids don't realize, you know, back then.
You kids? Why are you
not
saying...
you, I'm saying the audience, all right? But just having like the streaming services and the internet, it makes it so much easier to discover stuff. Back then, it was like I go to Suncoast and check the VHS wall, and it's like, what has a cool looking cover? But then even then, you know, you're paying $20 for a dub that has 2 episodes, or $30 if you want the subtitled one, which of course I want the subtitled because I'm a complete weeb. I'm like, you know, if you want to be a true anime enjoyer, you got to get the subtitle. But then that's, you know, $30 when I'm a kid. Like, we didn't have a lot of money. I'd have to save forever just to get my 2 episodes. So discovering stuff was definitely difficult, and I had to rely a lot on friends and you know, people I knew and what they were recommending. That's why I was so proud of Discover Evangelion, because I read that in Animerica, which was the like awesome anime magazine back then.
I've never heard of that.
Okay. We know that
I'm just saying, like, I have never heard of that.
I get you. We should say we are definitely not of the younger generation. We're older.
Yes.
We're both in our 30s.
We're the ones the government's blaming everything on.
Okay. Okay. But so yeah, it's a long history, but for my part now, I think I honestly read a lot more manga then I watch anime because of Shonen Jump, which has a subscription with like a huge library of stuff. That's how I discovered One Piece, was through Shonen Jump, which I guess we can get into next. Is, for me, I knew absolutely nothing about One Piece going into it. All I knew was that it was a mega, mega popular series about pirates. And I'd seen Luffy's character design, but I didn't know anything about it. I thought it looked completely unappealing. I'm not into pirate stuff. It also seemed like it was a kids show or something, but it was super popular. Oh, and I knew that it had like over 1,000 issues. I think that's one of the other big defining characteristics of One Piece is it's just fucking massive. But I got to a point where I was like, you know what? Let me read like the first 100 chapters, maybe, just so I can see what it's about. Just so I can say like that I know what it's about. And after those 100 chapters, I was so wrapped up in it, like I just had to read the whole thing because it was just incredible. It's like one of the best stories I'd ever read. So I read through the entire thing in a few months, and that's when I decided, you know what, I'd really like to watch the anime, but that's a much bigger investment, and it's something that just because of how basically all my free time is spent with you, I knew that we'd have to watch it together. So I'd have to convince you to watch it with me. But what did you know about One Piece like before you started watching it?
Literally nothing. I had never seen
Oh yeah.
any of the characters anywhere, or if I did, I had no idea what I was looking at. And I didn't have any friends that had ever talked about One Piece or anything. So because I'm still in that era basically from high school to when we met each other, which is a lot of years, I didn't look into anime really at all because it had faded from my life. It wasn't something I thought I would ever get back into again. So I had no recollection at all of like One Piece or anything like that. Nobody had ever talked about it to me.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's strange because it might be like the most popular series, but it's one of those things where it's almost like we're in this kind of club now because now I notice all the time like people wearing One Piece stuff and like just yesterday when I went to Taco Bell, there was a car in front of me that had a Zorro sticker on the back of their car. And that's something that like back in the day, I would just be like, oh, it's just some random anime shit. And it's like now it's like this little symbol that like, oh, I'm part of this club. I know what that is.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I'm not really seeking it out before, but now I do. I see it everywhere. And of course, I mean, probably algorithms have a thing to do with it. But I see One Piece memes all the time, which I try to avoid because I don't want to be spoiled because I am coming into this in a place where I should stay fresh on each episode. And that's very hard to do on the internet.
Yeah, I guess that's what we should talk about next is so for the purpose of the podcast, spoiler alert, we are kind of far along in the anime. We decided kind of late to do the podcast. We're going to go back now. But the idea is that as we go through the episodes, like I said, I'm going to outline, what's going on in the arc. I'm going to try to get your thoughts and you can try to tell me, what you're thinking. Try to get back in the headspace of like when you first watched it, which shouldn't be too hard because it's still pretty fresh. We didn't start that long ago. But we're going to be avoiding spoilers. So if anyone's watching it along with us, I'm not going to be saying anything about, anything that happens beyond the current arc. Even though I'm going to be trying to guide you and answer questions, like I'm very sensitive to spoilers. I'm not going to be spoiling anything we haven't already seen, but we're going to try to give a little bit of behind the scenes stuff. I have some insights since I've read the manga, some stuff about changes between the two or trivia or whatever I can come up with, keep it interesting. But we are also primarily watching One Piece, which because it is a very long series. We do have lives. I have a job that takes up a lot of my time, so it's hard to watch all 1,000 episodes. But we're still, and we're going to be skipping the filler arcs and stuff like that, but we're still getting like the full experience. Because the nice thing about One Piece is it tries to make it match the manga as much as possible. So it's cutting out a lot of the fat that like really is kind of unnecessary anyway, you know?
Well, yeah, I remember when we first started watching, they would have those little filler things usually before a commercial break, and I mean that does take up a lot of time when you're trying to watch a show that has like 1,000 episodes.
I mean, there's a lot of little stuff with the pacing and everything that is just added in there to fill the runtime, you know. And from what I've read, it gets worse as it goes because it starts to catch up with the manga and they start trying to space it out a bit. But so I can say, you know, going into it, I was pretty excited. Just seeing everything, you know, animated out, because reading in the manga is fantastic. The artwork, the pacing, everything is great. But getting to see it in color with the voice acting, the music, and everything is it's fun. It's very exciting. So I'm pretty excited to get into it. But I mean, what is your excitement level? At least if you can think back when we first started. I feel like I was kind of forcing you to watch it.
Yeah, you were. It was my thoughts were almost nothing because I had no idea what I didn't even know it was about pirates. Like, this is how much I had no idea what this was about. And when you first stated that you want to start watching this and you told me how many episodes it is, I'm like, I'll watch it. Because, you know, I think what taught me was really you got me to watch My Hero Academia, which I didn't want to watch. I didn't like the first episode. I was not happy, but I continued watching because I love you. And it's one of my favorite animes though now. Like, I love that anime. So I'm like, I know nothing about this, but I'm going to give it a shot. And I'm glad I fell in love with the first episode of One Piece. Like, I was hooked.
I was worried because I know it starts kind of slow. Like, the thing everyone always says is you have to get through Arlong Park. And I think I told you that a bunch of times because Arlong Park is the first arc that feels like a traditional One Piece arc. It's like a big villain, a lot of emotional highs, and it builds up to this big confrontation at the end. And a lot of the series leading up to that is kind of slow and kind of just introducing stuff, which I like and I enjoy. It's just when you're introducing someone, it's hard to guess, you know, the interest level leading up to that point. So I always felt like, look, if we can make it to Arlong Park, it's going to take a while, but if we can at least get through that, then I'm pretty convinced you'll be into it. And I feel like that was the case. But it's nice that you're into it from the beginning.
Yeah, though I will say the first couple of minutes, I'm like, okay, let's see how this goes. But I was just in the story and I really liked it.
That's good. I mean, I felt that way reading it too, honestly. Like it's so funny because it is a series that like when I try to tell my friends, I think for everybody, when you hear how long it is, that's the first thing that people are like, I don't know. Like, that's a lot to commit to. It's tough to convince people. I mean, and that's why I said that I was going to just read the first 100 chapters because I was like, I don't know if I can commit to 1,000 fucking chapters. But it is one of those things that once you start going, it just hooks you. And when I'm explaining it to people, because I've told my friends multiple times, you know, that One Piece, it's the GOAT. It's the best. You know, and they're always like, well, why? Like, what makes it the best? And there is no, like, if you pitch it as just explaining the story, that it's like about this pirate crew trying to be the king of the pirates, and some of them have these weird powers. It's like there's nothing to like for a lot of manga, I feel like they're very high concept, and a lot of times you can kind of summarize in one sentence what it's about, and it sounds interesting, and it's like, oh, I want to see what that's about. One Piece isn't like that. One Piece is more of like this weird slice of life that has this amazing world, amazing characters. Like, everything about it is just so well realized and so much fun. And it makes it even harder to pitch people when you're just saying, well, the characters in the world are just top notch, you know, best in the game. It's like that's not going to really get people excited about checking it out.
Well, I feel like without spoiling, and I don't know if this is a spoiler, we cut it if it is. Mm-hmm. But They go into every single detail
Oh
about
yeah,
everything. Not even just every character, just like everything. You know the backstory behind everything and everyone. And I think that's what I really love because I don't think I've ever seen a show do that before.
for sure. Yeah, I think I'm glad you said that because that's one of the big things is that the the world building really is just top notch. Like nobody can compete, and part of it is because it's 1,000 fucking episodes. Like they take the time to really dig into every little detail and just they give it a lot of room to breathe. And I think we're going to talk about that a lot as we go like through the arcs and everything. But that's something that always impresses me is how much time they spend on these little things that feel inconsequential, but it's a part of the package and it's a part of what makes it feel so alive and so realistic, you know. I don't know if you can hear a cat
I
eating
know.
in the
I'm
background.
like thinking like, oh, they can hear him eat every single piece of food.
Listen, we're figuring it out. You can probably hear cars driving by in the street. It rained today, so it's a little noisy, but that's okay. That's okay. I don't know. Is there anything else you really want to talk about?
Well, I mean, I think without getting into spoilers and specifics, it might be a little hard. But
Right.
if we're talking about One Piece being very magical and like such a great story, I feel like I don't know how to go into this.
Mm-hmm.
So last year my father passed away, and watching One Piece felt really healing to like watch these people go through so many different things. And I don't want to, of course, get into them, but it was,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the ultimate weeb crying over an anime.
It's okay.
But I can just clearly remember from the episodes that we watched and from the stages of grief that I was going through, it just felt really like healing to watch something so wholesome and so like connected and friendship and building relationships with people and going through these hard times with other people.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the great things about One Piece is that at the end of the day, it is surprisingly wholesome because it is about the friendship and the bonds that the characters have and how they have each other's backs, you know, no matter what. And Luffy, even though he is such a goofy ass character, the way he's portrayed as having such a big heart and being able to overcome everything just by being, you know, true to himself. There's definitely something very moving and emotional about that. I think everybody can look at that and think like, yeah, I think I'd like to be on Luffy's pirate crew. By the way,
I mean, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, he's nice to everyone. And I also like, I feel like we'll start dipping into spoilers.
Yeah, I'm trying not to say too much.
Yeah.
I will say I'm taking a conscious effort to say Luffy because I think Luffy sounds weird as shit. And from reading the manga, I always said Luffy because that's how it looks like it's spelled.
Yeah.
And that was one of those things where when we started watching the anime and they're saying Luffy, it was like, oh, I guess I gotta adjust.
I'm sure you're not
that.
the only one.
I'm sure it is, but it is funny coming from reading it, you know, because there are other things I'm going to get into, like some weird changes that are there. I guess I'll just say
I have one weird change I can't wait to get into, but that's obviously for another episode.
Well, I'll say, like, for example, because I don't know if I ever told you this, in the translation of the manga, Zoro's character is Zolo. That's how his character's translated in the manga. It's Z-O-L-O. I'll get into it later, but I read through the whole thing. He's Zolo, you know, the whole time. And then we start watching and they're calling him Zoro. And I'm like, what? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, did they mistranslate? And then I found out, yeah, the manga actually mistranslated and his actual name is Zoro. But he is still called Zolo to this day. Like the new releases still call him Zolo in the manga. It's weird. I'll get into it later. We're gonna get into all this kind of weird trivia and comparisons, during the actual episodes, but there's a lot to go into when it comes to One Piece. But yeah, was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
I mean, on a podcast note, and segueing off of the One Piece note, even though that's why we're here.
Sure.
I think it might be interesting to just say that we also love horror movies.
Yeah.
And that we may talk about horror movies, maybe not on this channel, but that is a possibility.
Yeah, I guess I'll say we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but the plan here is to release these episodes every other week covering the arcs, because it's going to be a lot. We have to watch the whole arc. We got to take notes on the story and everything, and then sit down and talk about it. But we would like to do a weekly release, and maybe in the in-between weeks we can talk about other stuff. I don't know. We'll kind of feel it out.
Maybe on a different channel, though. I don't want to.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't want to mess up what's going on with obviously people tuning into Straw Hat Social Club, and they're like, why are they talking about horror movies?
Maybe we can keep it anime themed on this channel and see where it goes.
I would love to discuss other animes.
Oh yeah. And the funny thing is there are other series where I've read the whole manga and never watched the anime. So we can do this for, Naruto is another one that's super popular. And I like the manga.
About
that was another one I read because and I think it's also Naruto. It's another one.
I always say it wrong because I said Naruto once, and you turned your head back at me. You did.
I don't remember
That's not how it said because you did a Naruto run.
That's another. We don't need to talk about that. Okay. We don't need to mention that. Listen, I'm 38 years old. I'm not doing any Naruto runs. All right.
If that's what we want to say.
But anyways, that's another series that I knew nothing about it. I knew it was super popular. It looked corny as hell, but I was like, fuck it. Let me read it. And it was cool. So I wouldn't mind, going back and watching that. There's other series like that. So there's plenty we could do. But for now, yeah, I definitely want to focus on One Piece. One Piece is the king. I think it's the best of the best. So, but we'll see. We'll see where it goes. We're having fun.
Yeah.
And I think when it's not fun anymore, we'll stop. But as long as it stays fun, we're going to just keep doing it.
I agree.
It's nice just doing something creative together because we're both very creative people.
We are.
So, yeah, it's fun. So, look forward to seeing episodes. Like I said, we're planning on doing every other week with all the major arcs. And, we'll figure it out for the in-between weeks because we would like to do a weekly schedule, but we're figuring it out as we go.
Yeah, a weekly schedule might come later because we're doing everything ourselves. So.
Yep, and we don't know what we're doing.
Nope.
So, yeah. But, yeah, I think that's a good intro, good introduction. Again, I'm Todd.
I'm Becca.
And this is Straw Hat Social Club. So just keep it tuned. We're on Instagram. You're doing all that stuff.
I'm working on all the socials. So
we'll be posting on there. Where else are we? We're on Instagram and
right now. Yeah. Right now we're on Instagram. I did make a Twitter, but Elon Musk is screwing Twitter up. So I don't think that it's important. Personally, I think Twitter is kind of a dump truck right now.
Yeah.
So there's no point in really... it's all right-wing stuff. Nobody's going to find us on there.
We don't need to get in that.
Anyway, making the YouTube account today because I didn't know what to name it at the time.
We'd like to post stuff on there too. I think for now it's just going to be, what's the word?
We're on Tumblr too. If there's any people out there, hey, you know what? I reblogged a lot of anime when I was 16 years old on my Tumblr, and Tumblr is coming back, so we have a Tumblr as well.
I am not really on social media at all, so I leave it all to you to figure out. But yeah, we do want to post on YouTube. Eventually we want to do video, but I think that's a little too much for us to take on right now.
Yeah, we'll see how this goes, and then if we do video.
Yeah. But yeah. So I guess tune in 2 weeks. Hopefully we'll post the first actual arc with this episode.
We're looking to release at least 3 episodes when we launch.
Yeah. We'll
see.
We'll figure it out. But the main schedule for this One Piece watch along is going to be every other week. So just stay tuned. Look for Straw Hat Social Club all over the place. Show your support. That'd be great. And I guess we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
All right. I love you.
Love you too.